Happy Monday, December 22nd, 2025. We've got some really cool stuff to talk about today in comic book news. We've got a matchup of Superman and Homelander, which I know we've all been wanting to see for a long time. We've got the crossover we've been promised since the beginning for Transformers, and you'll never guess the character that's replacing Superman. So let's just jump right into it. Okay, Superman fights Homelander in explosive first look image. So we've all wanted to see this for a very long time as comic book readers. This is really cool. Superman and Homelander will be duking it out across The Boys co-creator Derek Robertson's upcoming variant cover for DCKO Boss Battle #1. Readers can check out the variant cover art for themselves down below. So let's take a look. All right, here's the image. This looks amazing. This is definitely a comic you're going to want to tell your comic book store to put in your pull list or to save one of these for you, because I think this cover in particular for this DC boss battle issue is going to be one that sells out quick, purely because we have a matchup that's been talked about in comic books by people speculating who would win for a very long time. Now, I have to say though, I think in this debate, Superman is heavily favored in this matchup. I just think that he is much more invulnerable and has more powers than Homelander, even though Homelander is very powerful. If I remember from the show The Boys, there's a part where they're in a plane and it's going down, and the woman hero that's with Homelander on the plane says to Homelander, why don't you just go like below the plane and like fly it up? And Homelander says like, I can't do that. That's not possible. The physics don't work that way. Now that just shows you right there that there's a power level difference between Superman and Homelander, because Superman would easily fly underneath that plane and lift it up and carry it to wherever it needed to go and save all those people. So I think there's not much of a debate here, but I still think this is a really cool matchup to see, you know, not a speculated fight, not a, oh, well, he could do this, he could do that. No, we're going to get a real one in the comics to settle this debate forever. So this is really, really cool. The official solicit for the DCKO Boss Battle #1 from DC Comics reads, "To save our world, they must battle the champions of other worlds." Now, if you remember, we talked about this a while ago. The characters that are going to be in this battle are shown right here in this image. And who we have here are Samantha Strong, Vampirella, Sub-Zero, Homelander, Annabelle, and Red Sonja. These are the characters that are coming over that I assume they're all going to be in this boss battle issue, but maybe there'll be multiple ones. Let me know if that's going to be the case. But besides the battle between Superman and Homelander, which I know is one we really want to see, I actually am curious to see how Annabelle plays into this and how she fares in, you know, whoever she kind of goes up against, because she has the power of the supernatural on her side, you know, so I'm not sure how that's going to go. With all these characters, this is going to be interesting no matter what. So, you know, this crossover stuff that DC and Marvel have been doing has been amazing. This is the year of crossovers, and so will 2026 be the year of crossovers. And you know what? It may be a gimmick, but I don't care. I'm all for it. I mean, as comic book readers, we always talk about, you know, the power levels of different comic book characters and what would happen if they face each other, and they're giving it to us. So I have nothing to complain about that. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Who do you think wins this matchup, and will you be picking up this issue and variant cover as well? All right, the long-awaited Transformers crossover event finally confirmed, and now we know when. Okay, so this we've been building to for a while. It's the crossover of G.I. Joe and Transformers. I think we're finally getting to see how this interaction between the Transformers and the character of Duke plays out. Let's read a little bit from this article. The latter, and this is referring to the Energon universe, now boasts a once-in-a-lifetime crossover with explosive potential as the Autobots explore their recent meeting with G.I. Joe. It marks the first time Optimus Prime will meet Duke, and fans of both franchises will have a hard but wonderful time trying to wrap their heads around how they'll be able to enjoy two of their favorite heroes finally being in the same space at the same time. Each of the covers carry their own distinct aura, celebrating the union for G.I. Joe #20. So let's take a look at these covers. Okay, this is really basic, but it tells you everything you need to know, which is that Transformers are crossing over here with G.I. Joe, of course. So yeah, the art's great on that one. Let's see what else we have here. It looks like we have some of the G.I. Joe villains here. I'm not seeing any Transformers in this one though, and it doesn't look like we have any Transformers in this one here, but if we keep going down, there we go. We've got the Jorge Corona cover, which in my opinion is the best one. We can see the crossover going on here. We can see Optimus Prime here on the cover. Jorge Corona is one of my favorite modern comic book artists. He has a very similar style to Daniel Warren Johnson, which I think is a good thing because Daniel Warren Johnson is also one of my favorite modern comic book artists. I think those two are really leading the pack right now in terms of modern comic book art. And yeah, like I already said, this is amazing. Looks like we're going to have covers A through E, and it's going to come out March 18th, 2026. So yeah, here's that cover of issue 19. And I just got to say that Robert Kirkman is doing an amazing outstanding job with the Energon universe. I think even if you look at the title Void Rivals, I really liked that title. I really liked how it started off and how it kind of gave you that big teaser that Transformers were in this same universe. That was amazing. And Robert Kirkman, I mean, he I think it would be hard for you not to include him on a list of like top comic book writers, maybe of all time. I mean, he's written some of the most iconic stuff ever with Invincible, with The Walking Dead. Now you have the whole Energon universe, even stuff like Firepower. And there's a bunch of stuff that he's written that has, all been really, really great. So I know I don't have to advertise this, but like if you're not reading the Energon universe, you should be. I think Skybound is actually competing with Marvel and DC for real right now for comic book sales, because I think they're doing pretty well right now. And yeah, this has just been a great journey, and it's great to see that these characters are coming together, and we're getting the crossovers and stuff that we've wanted from the beginning when we got that first teaser of the Transformers being in the G.I. Joe universe together. So yeah, I'm really excited for this. Let me know if you're reading this, if you're going to be picking up this book, and what your thoughts are on this upcoming crossover. Okay, a new Superman has been confirmed for the DC universe. Now ignore this image because we're talking about the DC Comics universe, which is always the best version of the DC universe. Don't get me wrong, I love the MCU, and I'm excited for the new DCU, but the comics are where it's at, always. Ride or die for the comics. This is a little spoilery for the end of DCKO. Now, it doesn't tell you what happens or what the outcome of DCKO is, but it does tell you that Superman is going to be replaced by another character. Now, this is another Superman-like character. It's crazy what this is going to be, and I can't wait to see what the potential for this is going to be. I think this is super exciting, but if you don't want to know what I'm about to say, you can skip this part of this video. However, it's been confirmed that Superboy Prime will be replacing Superman, at least temporarily, after the outcome of DCKO. Joshua Williamson says after DCKO, Superboy Prime is the new Superman of the DC universe. This new storyline begins in March with Superman 36 and Dan Mora returning. Now, Superboy Prime's origins are kind of confusing. There's an alternate dimension Earth called Earth Prime where superheroes are not real and they're only like comic book characters. It's basically like the real world, you could say. And there's a boy named Clark Kent there. When Halley's Comet passes, it awakens his like latent Kryptonian powers, and then he is eventually met by the Superman of our Earth 1, and then he eventually ends up going into, the main DC universe, and he's part of the Sinestro Corps War and a bunch of stuff, Infinite Crisis and everything else like that, and he helps fight the Anti-Monitor in Crisis on Infinite Earths. And he develops into basically a villain, a very, very powerful villain. And I think now he's going to be more of a hero coming into this role where he's replacing Superman. So I don't know. It's a very convoluted backstory with Superboy Prime. Now, this article does go on to mention what it says in the solicit, which is that normally Prime has only been a part of massive DC events, but now he gets a real shot at showing the world he can be just as great a hero as Superman. Here you go. This is another, modern image of Superboy Prime. Something I also want to mention about Superboy Prime is that he is considered to be stronger than the original Superman. And one big thing to note about him is that he is not affected by kryptonite. So that's a big deal. There was no kryptonite in his universe where he comes from. So it has no effect on his body at all, or his powers or anything like that. So, look at Superman and take away his greatest weakness and think about how powerful he would be. And then plus, Superboy Prime is just considered to be stronger, I think, even than Superman. So this is definitely going to be interesting. I think this is really cool. I'm very excited for this. So let me know if you're going to be reading this new Superman going forward from Superman 36 with Superboy Prime. Let me know if you're excited for that. And let me know what your thoughts are on this in the comments down below. All right, what else do we have here? Marvel confirms Thanos' return in 2026, setting up an epic confrontation. Now, we're talking about the comics universe, the best version of the Marvel universe. We're seeing a picture of Thanos from the MCU, but let's talk about his actual return in the comics. Let's talk about the comic that he's returning in, which is Knull. Knull is one of the coolest characters ever conceived in the Marvel universe. Donny Cates, of course, coming up with Knull and doing a great job. The creator of the all-black Necrosword, the king of the symbiotes, the king in black, he takes out Celestials, which is absolutely crazy. The King of the Void, he was imprisoned. And Hela has been draining his powers, and She wants to take over his role, becoming the Queen in Black. There's a lot of implications in this. And then we have this new series coming out of Knull, and you know, we'll have to see what the story of this is going to be. The concept for the new Knull series by writers Al Ewing and Tom Waltz, with this being Waltz's first Marvel series after a long and acclaimed career at IDW, is that Knull is being held captive by Hela as she plans to take his place as the new Queen in Black. However, he is able to escape in the first issue. And by the way, Al Ewing, amazing comic book writer, so I already have faith in this because he's writing it. Knull knows that there's a weapon from his past that he can use to challenge Hela for his title as the King in Black. So he heads off on a journey to look for that weapon. And wouldn't you just know, Knull's luck would just so happen to lead to Thanos looking for the same weapon. And then here you have the solicit for Knull number 3. I think this is a book that I would like to buy just to, you know, have the cover of Knull and Thanos at the same time. Here's an interesting question. Knull versus Thanos, who wins? Obviously, it's going to be Knull, right? Thanos isn't that crazy powerful without the Infinity Gauntlet, but I think that something that people need to factor in when it comes to Thanos more often is his intelligence and his preparedness. Like, you know how Batman has this like superpower, quote unquote, where he's always prepared for everything and he always has a backup plan and he's always kind of has a contingency for everything. Thanos reminds me of that in a way where he's kind of ahead of you. He's one step ahead. He's able to outsmart the heroes a lot of time, even without the Infinity Gauntlet and the Infinity Stones. He's even done things where he sets up for, like, in the event of his passing, his consciousness would transfer to another body. So he's kind of one of those characters that is like really planning for everything. So even though Knull has him in raw strength and power by like a million, I do think you can't factor out Thanos ever. Like, you can never say easily that Thanos is going to be defeated because he's going to be prepared and he may be able to outsmart Knull. So who do you think wins in a fight between Thanos and Knull? Let's say it this way. Who do you think wins if it's Thanos versus Knull with prep time? And yeah, just let me know your thoughts on the return of Knull. Are you going to be picking up this comic when it comes out? I know I definitely am. The character is amazing, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading these issues when they come out. Okay, let's take a look at the new comic books coming out this Wednesday, December 24th, 2025. We've got Absolute Wonder Woman, which is obviously featuring Absolute Batman as well, so great to see those two characters coming together. I am reading Absolute Batman and Absolute Wonder Woman, and they've been phenomenal. We have Absolute Superman and Absolute Martian Manhunter. Let's be real, the Absolute universe is really awesome. So all solid pickups for this week. We've got Detective Comics. Now, I'm not currently reading Detective Comics, but let me know if you are. I am reading the Matt Fraction run of Batman, though, and that has been good so far. I'm not totally caught up on that, but I am working on it. We also have Lex Luthor versus the Demon versus Etrigan. This is an awesome matchup for DCKO. Now, my opinion on this is obviously Etrigan has Luthor in raw strength, even in Luthor's power armor. Remember, Etrigan is an extremely powerful character in DC. I mean, he's gone toe-to-toe with some of the most powerful out there. I would have loved to see Etrigan versus like Lobo. That would have been amazing. But here's the thing. You got Lex Luthor, and Lex Luthor may be the smartest guy in DC. I guess the only guy that beats him is Mr. Terrific. So intelligence, as we all know in comics, kind of gives you that plot armor. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Let me know who you think is winning this fight in the comments down below. We've got Justice League Unlimited, and it's a tie-in to DCKO. Justice League Unlimited has been amazing. Every character is part of the Justice League now. That's awesome. I would highly recommend you read that if you're not reading it. The Flash versus Green Lantern, another DCKO matchup. You got to pick this one up, and you definitely have to pick up Red Hood versus the Joker. I mean, those two have a real history, and it's a brutal one, so I can't call it for either one of them. But again, let me know in the comments who you think is winning this fight between Red Hood and the Joker. Ongoing Amazing Spider-Man. We've got Green Lantern, Green Arrow, and Immortal Legend Batman. That one isn't really on my radar, but let me know if you're reading that one. Void Rivals, which has been great from the beginning. I'm not caught up on this currently, but I am working on that one as well. Spawn's always solid with great art. Harley Quinn, it's cool that we're getting to the 200th issue. I really like when comic books go for a nice, long, solid run. And I'm happy that Harley Quinn has been good enough to make it this far. So yeah, that's really exciting. I think this is going to be a great one to pick up as a collectible issue as well. Justice League Red, this is on my list to start reading because I think it's a really cool team with Power Girl and the Red Tornado and so on. And then we've got some other stuff going on here, but I think I've touched on the major ones to come out this week. Now let's take a look at the omnibuses coming out as well. It looks like the major ones of note here are The Avengers by Johns and Coppel, and I guess the Rick and Morty hardcover. I just ordered a Rick and Morty compendium because I kind of want to read those comics because I just can't get enough Rick and Morty. I don't really know what Warlord is, but Mike Grell is a great writer, so maybe this is something I need to look into. Let me know if this is a run that I should read, and let me know which new omnibuses you're going to be picking up in the comments down below. All right, that's it for this episode of Comic Book News. Let me know if there's anything major that I missed in this video. Let me know your thoughts on the different stories that I talked about, and as always, please don't forget to like and subscribe.